This is take two. Stopped only because shortly into what I was talking about, I began burping. So I've been a little more than hesitant to talk about any kind of political stuff. Partly because I don't want to know what the rules are for political speech. I would rather be able to continue uploading other videos that people seem to like. And so I've kind of refrained from getting into some of that stuff. It's kind of one of those, if you ain't paying attention already, I don't know what can be done. I'm not going to comment on teams and sides and other things and whatever at this time. What I will say is, on a policy angle, seems like it's very possible that the reason that an event occurred was because of bad policy, resulting in a person who should have been incarcerated not being incarcerated. However, there's also in years previous, kind of the closure of a lot of mental health options for people while simultaneously destroying the economy. And I'm not sure exactly whose fault that kind of stuff is. But I'm doing okay in my day-to-day. Things are good. This ad plays. And it wasn't even just like, ooh, saw his face. It wasn't, it just was like, oh, ouch, ouch. They're going to use that. They're going to talk about that dude in the parade. It hurt to watch, but it's true. It's true. But don't take a sides thing. That's a local DA thing. That's not a who's in charge of the top of the country thing. The local DAs depends on who financially backs them as to what decisions they do. They really don't take a lot of direction from higher up in the law enforcement food chain. It doesn't actually work that way for the most part. So you need to know who it is you're putting a little check mark next to on that down ballot. That's very important, though. And that's not a political statement. That's civics. You need to pay attention to your down ballot. If you can find out, whether through common knowledge or through direct, searching, you can find out, who backs which candidate, if there is such a backing, and if such a backing exists, and you can find out whose interests are pushing for what policy or lack thereof. And everyone can vote, and it's possible that those people cannot get voted in, that most of the time they've just been getting in because nobody's really been paying attention to that. If you're new to paying attention to some of the bigger stuff, you should also learn to pay attention to some of the smaller stuff. Find out if it's even happening locally or not. So yeah, a person who was very unstable and violent, abusive, aggressive, in the literal sense, tried running someone over. It's domestic. A domestic squabble tried running his girlfriend over, or baby mama, or whatever. Let out on a tiny bond that his mom paid. There's more going on than just the guy doing the things. There's all the people that enabled him, that created him, because people like that aren't born that way. And all the things he did. Man, I watched the trial. There is footage of this dude grinning like a maniac, checking out the carnage he's causing as he's causing it. Almost surprised that he's even doing it, but he's doing it. And then he tried to represent himself in court, and it was a whole circus. Now, stepping aside from the initial causation, there's another thing that happened, though. 2 things. 3 things. The first thing that happened was a great evil manifested itself in that town. I have no idea who opened a portal or summoned or whatever. If it just was there and it was a time to happen, an egg hatched, who knows? And the hearts of an entire town were poisoned against this man. And I'm not saying he didn't deserve hate, or at least retribution, punishment, being away from people. He's a victim himself, though. I believe he was made to be that way, unintentionally. It's that big question, man. Why do these people seem, if they're mentally ill, it's like, dude, they just seem like they're programmed to make their offspring mentally ill, too. Like they're trying to fuck their kids up. There's so many people in the world. Everybody knows somebody that's like that. But so then this town got poisoned, and I saw this evil spread in their hearts. They just were dark. When it came to the victim statements, it was just, I don't know what, saying mean things at a guy who clearly does not regret his actions. He used ultimately the Deus Vult argument in closing. It happened, therefore it was the will of God that it happened, was his final word. And it's not a death penalty state. But man, they were dark. They were sick in their hearts. So I watched this evil spread. Yes, justice was, done, but maybe not the justice they thought. Everybody, you could tell, people were agitated. Some of these people, I was surprised nobody went, pulled a gun out and shot the guy or whatever. The trial was harrowing. The evidence was all presented. It's disturbing. It's kind of the last one I really watched. I paid a little bit of attention to that Robert Tellis trial because I was kind of interested in what his defense was going to be. But I comprehensively watched the trial for that dude with the parade. And because I was watching that, the algorithm on YouTube sent me other news from the local area. And it turned out that on one occasion there was like a bomb hoax threat or something. And another time there was, I don't know, there was something else. Just a couple times that things got unruly and they had to escort someone out or clear the court. And many other details to the case, but disruption wise in the emergency sense, there was a plane crash in a golf course at the neighboring town with a somewhat similar name. And it was like right on the border with the town where the parade happened. I'm not saying the name of these towns because I don't want the fact that the words are being parsed for algorithmic purposes or for CC or whatever. That I'm not saying the names of these places. I'm trying not to say the guy's name. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, all you have to do is put in like parade killer represents self in court, and you can find everything there is to find. Anyways, in this neighboring town, a plane crashed. The plane took an emergency landing into the local golf course. It was en route from Canada to Louisiana, I think, but it might have been the other way around. But I think they were heading south. And the plane was a cargo plane. Aside from like pilot and co-pilot, there was like almost exactly the same number of rescue dogs shelter dogs. These are dogs that have been, strays picked up off the street or whatever. And, rather than be sent to a kill shelter, they were being sent somewhere else. And however, it was the case and the victims identified, everyone involved that were impacted by this dude doing the thing he did. There were almost the same number of dogs as there were affected families. And I was seeing the poison seeping into these people. I personally called the local county government, the city in question, and asked them about that. They said, oh, actually, that's the next town over. I said, do you guys, your assistants, you guys have each other's numbers, you're in contact? Yeah. Can I make this suggestion and have you suggest it? I didn't take credit. I didn't want credit. I don't think that it happened. I don't know that they did anything about it. But the suggestion was that since there was obviously as many of these shelter dogs as there were families, and that they were going to need maybe a week because of the weather and whatnot to be able to get another plane up and take them where they needed to go, that maybe it would benefit all of these bereaved families to have something they could do in the meantime here while this trial goes completely off the rails. That maybe that might, and I flat out said, look, man, I got this feeling. I had this cold fire in my spine, and I stood up out of my seat and was like, I have to make this phone call. And maybe I see these people's poisoning, and maybe these shelter dogs can help. So I said, I don't know if anyone can make that happen or whatever, but if, make contact, see if you can't hook it up. Might make a good PR thing. No, I do not want credit. I'm not going to tell you who I am or where I'm from. And that was the call. No idea, but I hadn't thought about it in a while until I saw that ad. And it keeps rolling. And I don't want to say I find it offensive. Like I said, the ad itself is technically valid, but this entire thing is... I hate politics. I hate the political season. I am interested in how things are done, how they are run, and that they are done and run cleanly, transparently for the people as the law prescribes. And until such time, it's like none of us should be under any obligation to reciprocate to any authority or government or law unless it is actually, as they say, 5 by 5. So anyways, I know this sounded ranty, but it's all just an encapsulation of what that ad means to me personally. And again, that's because I was invested in watching what happened. And similar poison exists in many places, or weird demon eggs waiting to hatch, spiritually speaking. It's Monday, it's Labor Day. I hope everyone has a good one.